The night the tornado tore my house apart, I stood in the ruins with nothing but the clothes on my back, and the hope that my son would take me in. I had always imagined that if the world ever fell apart, family would be my shelter. But when I knocked on his door, trembling, desperate, and holding on to the last thread of dignity I had left, he looked at me with tired eyes and said words that cut deeper than the storm ever could. "We want privacy, Mom." This is my story. I'm Katherine, and today I'll share what happened when my safe place, my home, my family, vanished in a single night. Welcome to Katherine Stories, where every story is real, raw, and full of heart. Before we dive deeper, I'd love to know, where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments. It means the world to me to see how far these stories travel, and it helps this video find others who need it. Let's begin. When the storm came, it didn't arrive quietly. It came like a beast, clawing at my walls, howling through the cracks, determined to rip apart everything I had built over a lifetime. The sound of the wind was unlike anything I had ever heard, not just a whistle, but a roar, like 1,000 angry voices screaming at once. My little home, the place where I had raised my son, celebrated holidays, and mourned losses, was no match for its fury. The windows shattered first, spraying glass across the floor like cruel confetti. I ducked, shielding my face as the air was sucked out of the house. Then came the roof, peeling back piece by piece until the sky itself opened above me, black and raging. Rain poured in, soaking everything I owned, while pieces of wood and shingles spun wildly through the air. I remember standing frozen in the center of my living room, clutching a framed picture of my husband, the only thing I had managed to grab before the roof tore away. That house held my entire life. The chair where I used to rock my baby to sleep, the kitchen table where we had birthdays and Thanksgivings, the little marks on the wall where I had measured my son's height each year. Decades of living, swallowed by the night in seconds. By the time I stumbled out, the house wasn't a home anymore. It was a pile of broken memories, creaking and collapsing into the mud. My heart pounded so loud it drowned out the storm itself. And yet, even in that devastation, a fragile thought anchored me. "It's okay, Katherine. At least you still have family." That single thought kept me moving, kept me breathing. My son's house was just a half-hour drive away. 30 minutes. I could do that. I told myself that once I got there, everything would be different. He would see me trembling, drenched, and heartbroken, and he would open his arms. The drive was a blur. Sheets of rain slammed against. When the storm came, it didn't arrive quietly. It came like a beast, clawing at my walls, howling through the cracks, determined to rip apart everything I had built over a lifetime. The sound of the wind was unlike anything I had ever heard, not just a whistle, but a roar, like 1,000 angry voices screaming at once. My little home, the place where I had raised my son, celebrated holidays and mourned losses, was no match for its fury. The windows shattered first, spraying glass across the floor like cruel confetti. I ducked, shielding my face as the air was sucked out of the house. Then came the roof, peeling back piece by piece until the sky itself opened above me, black and raging. Rain poured in, soaking everything I owned, while pieces of wood and shingles spun wildly through the air. I remember standing frozen in the center of my living room, clutching a framed picture of my husband, the only thing I had managed to grab before the roof tore away. That house held my entire life. The chair where I used to rock my baby to sleep, the kitchen table where we had birthdays and Thanksgivings, the little marks on the wall where I had measured my son's height each year. Decades of living, swallowed by the night in seconds. By the time I stumbled out, the house wasn't a home anymore. It was a pile of broken memories, creaking and collapsing into the mud. My heart pounded so loud it drowned out the storm itself. And yet, even in that devastation, a fragile thought anchored me. "It's okay, Katherine. At least you still have family." That single thought kept me moving, kept me breathing. My son's house was just a half-hour drive away. 30 minutes. I could do that. I told myself that once I got there, everything would be different. He would see me trembling, drenched and heartbroken, and he would open his arms. The drive was a blur. Sheets of rain slammed against. The windshield, wipers screeching back and forth, barely keeping up. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly they cramped. At every turn, fallen branches and pieces of debris littered the road, but I swerved around them with a desperation only a mother could know. The thought of my son's face, his voice, his safe home waiting for me, that was my fuel. By the time I pulled into his driveway, my car rattling like it might fall apart, my heart swelled with fragile relief. The house looked untouched, solid against the chaos of the storm. Light glowed faintly in the windows, and for the first time in hours, I let myself breathe. I climbed the porch steps, rain dripping from my hair, my clothes clinging to me like ice. My hands trembled as I reached for the door. I could already imagine it. The warmth of the inside, a blanket around my shoulders. My son saying the words I longed to hear. "Don't worry, Mom. You're safe here." The door opened, but instead of warmth, I was met with something colder than the storm outside. My son stood there, his face tired, his shoulders heavy as though he carried a weight I couldn't see. And behind him, in the dim light of the hallway, was his wife, arms crossed tightly across her chest, her lips pressed into a thin line. Her eyes were sharp, not with concern, but with calculation. For a moment, no one spoke. The only sound was the rain hammering on the roof above us, dripping off the edge of the porch. I forced a smile, though my teeth chattered from the cold. "Mark," I whispered, my voice breaking, "the house, it's gone. Everything is gone." His eyes softened, just for a second. I thought I saw the boy I raised flicker back, the boy who used to run into my arms when he scraped his knee, the boy who once promised me at 10 years old, "Don't worry, Mom. I'll always take care of you." But then her voice cut through the silence like a blade. "Mark," she said sharply, "we agreed we needed our privacy. We can't have your mother living here, not now." The words hit me harder than any piece of debris from the storm. Privacy? From me? I wasn't asking for forever. I wasn't asking for comfort or luxuries or space of my own. Just a couch, just a corner. Just a roof that wasn't collapsing over my head. My chest tightened, each breath burning as though the air itself rejected me. I turned my eyes back to my son, desperate. He looked at her, then at me, his jaw clenched. His fingers tapped nervously against the doorframe. He wouldn't meet my eyes for long. "Mark," I whispered again, my voice trembling, "I just need a place. Just for tonight, just until I figure out what to do, please." But he swallowed hard, and I saw it. The moment his loyalty shifted, the moment his voice became not his own, but hers. He looked down, his words quiet, almost as if he was trying to convince himself more than me. We want privacy, Mom. You can't stay here." I stood there, the rain dripping down my face, mixing with the tears I refused to let fall. Privacy. That word echoed in my mind like a cruel joke. After all I had done, after years of sacrifice, after giving him my entire life, I was now nothing more than an intrusion. The storm had destroyed my house, but my son's words, those destroyed my heart. I clutched the porch railing to steady myself, because my knees nearly buckled under the weight of his rejection. My mouth opened, but no sound came. There was nothing left to say. The boy I raised, the man I loved more than anything, had just told me I wasn't welcome. And for the first time that night, I wished the storm had taken me too. Something inside me shattered. It was as if the last thread holding me together had snapped. I wanted to scream. My throat ached with words that begged to be spoken, words that had been buried in my heart for decades. Do you remember the nights I worked double shifts to keep food on the table? Do you remember the winters when I went without heat so you could have a warm bed? Do you remember the shoes I never bought for myself so you could have new ones each school year? Do you remember, Mark, the mother who built her world around you? Every memory of sacrifice surged through me like a flood, pressing against my chest until I thought I might choke. I wanted him to feel it, to see it, to understand that I had never been a burden. I had been his lifeline. But when I opened my mouth, no words came. My tongue felt heavy, my throat locked tight. Instead, only silence poured out, and in that silence, I felt smaller than I ever had before, Tears blurred my vision, hot and humiliating, as I stood there on his porch, gripping the railing to steady myself. My hands were cold, my knuckles white. "Where will I go?" I whispered, my voice cracking like fragile glass. It wasn't just a question. It was a plea to the son I raised, to the boy who once clung to my skirts when thunder scared him, to the man who had once called me his hero. His wife looked away, her eyes narrowing with irritation, as though my pain were an inconvenience. She didn't see me as a mother, as a woman who had just lost her home. She saw me as a problem to be pushed aside. My son's lips trembled. For a moment, I thought I saw guilt flicker in his eyes. But still, he said nothing. No comfort, no solution, not even a suggestion. Just silence. The kind of silence that screams louder than words. I turned away, my feet heavy as stones. Each step felt like walking through mud, thick and unrelenting. The storm outside beat against me, pelting me with cold rain, but it was nothing compared to the storm inside me. My chest was a hollow cavern, echoing with betrayal. When I reached my car, I sat behind the wheel, gripping it with shaking hands. My breath came in short, uneven gasps. I had faced heartbreak before. The death of my husband, the struggles of raising a child alone, the endless bills and long nights of loneliness. But nothing had ever cut me this deeply. I started the engine, but I didn't drive away. I couldn't. Where would I go? The world suddenly felt like a vast, empty place, and I was a wanderer with no destination. That night, I slept in my car. The rain drummed on the roof like cruel fingers tapping out a rhythm of despair. The air inside grew damp, the windows fogging from my shallow breaths. I curled up in the driver's seat, wrapping my arms around myself because there was no one else to do it. I pressed my hand to my chest, trying to hold together a heart that hadn't been broken by nature, but by my own child. As I lay there, memories flooded me, uninvited and relentless. I remembered the night Mark was born, how small he was in my arms, how I swore to him that I would never let anything hurt him. I remembered his first day of school, when he clung to my hand so tightly I had to pry his little fingers loose, whispering, "It's okay, sweetheart. You'll make friends." I remembered the way he used to run to me after soccer practice, sweaty and smiling, shouting, "Did you see me, Mom? Did you see my goal?" I saw his teenage years when money was tighter than ever. I worked nights cleaning offices, my body aching just so he could go on school trips, just so he never felt less than the other kids. I remembered sitting at the kitchen table, bills spread out, tears falling quietly, praying I could stretch what little I had to keep the lights on. And through it all, I remembered thinking, it's worth it. One day, he'll understand. One day, he'll be proud of me. One day, he'll take care of me when I'm old. But here I was, old, broken, alone, and he had turned me away. The storm outside grew quieter as the night dragged on, but inside, my storm only raged louder. Each raindrop against the window was a reminder. You're not wanted. You're not needed. You're alone, I cried until my chest ached, until my throat burned, until there were no tears left. And then I just lay there, staring at the roof of the car, listening to the sound of my own heartbeat. At some point, exhaustion pulled me under, but even in sleep, there was no peace. I dreamed of standing at my son's door, pounding and begging, only for him to turn away. I dreamed of my home, collapsing again and again, the walls crushing me as he stood watching, unmoved. When I woke, my neck was stiff, my body sore from the cramped seat. My clothes were damp, clinging to me like a second skin. The sky outside was gray, heavy with the weight of what had been lost. I sat there for a long time, staring at the steering wheel, feeling the emptiness in my chest. The tornado had destroyed my house, yes, but my son's rejection had destroyed something far more precious, the bond I thought could never be broken. And as I sat in that car, I realized storms don't just tear down houses. Sometimes they tear down illusions too. But dawn softens even the harshest night. As the first light broke through the foggy windows of my car, I sat up slowly, every bone in my body aching. My neck was stiff, my eyes swollen from crying, and the cold had seeped into my skin like it belonged there. Still, the sunrise painted the sky with a faint blush of hope, and in that quiet moment, I whispered to myself, "You've survived worse, Katherine. You're still breathing. You are more than the choices of others." I repeated it again, firmer this time, as if saying it aloud might make me believe it, because the truth was, I didn't feel strong. I felt abandoned. I felt like a tree stripped bare after a storm, nothing left but roots clinging to the ground. But even then, roots hold on, and so would I. With shaking hands, I started my car and drove toward the local shelter I had heard about on the radio. My pride screamed at me to turn back, to avoid the shame of walking into a place for the homeless. But my heart, my wounded, desperate heart, told me it was the only choice I had left. When I arrived, the building looked plain, a squat brick structure with a faded sign. I sat in the parking lot for a long moment, staring at the entrance. My palms were sweaty on the steering wheel. Walking in meant admitting that I had no one, that I wasn't welcome in the home of the son I had given everything for. Finally, I forced myself out of the car, one foot in front of the other. The doors opened, and warmth wrapped around me. The smell of brewed coffee drifted through the air, mingled with the faint scent of laundry soap. A woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile greeted me. "Good morning, dear. You look cold. Come in." Her words nearly undid me. They were so simple, yet they carried something I hadn't felt in what seemed like forever. Kindness without conditions. She led me to a seat and placed a warm cup of coffee in my hands. Someone draped a blanket over my shoulders, and in that moment, I felt more cared for by strangers than I had by my own flesh and blood. They didn't ask for explanations. They didn't look at me with judgment or suspicion. They just saw me. A tired, broken woman who needed a place to rest. I stayed at the shelter that day, listening to stories from others who had lost everything, not just houses, but families, marriages, dreams. And strangely, I didn't feel as alone anymore. Pain has a way of connecting people, even when their stories are different. A volunteer named Linda sat with me. She was middle-aged, with gentle wrinkles around her eyes and a laugh that came easily. She told me about her own struggles, about how she once rebuilt her life after a devastating divorce. "You're stronger than you think, Katherine," she told me, patting my hand. "The storm took your house, but it didn't take you. That's what matters." Her words settled deep inside me. The storm didn't take me. My son's rejection didn't destroy me. I was still here. In the days that followed, the shelter staff worked tirelessly to help me find stability. Volunteers helped me fill out forms for temporary housing. They guided me toward resources I hadn't known existed. They even provided me with a donated phone so I could stay connected. And then, something beautiful happened. One afternoon, I heard a knock on the temporary room they had given me. When I opened the door, a neighbor from my old street stood there, holding a bag of groceries. My eyes widened in surprise. "I heard what happened, Katherine," she said softly. "I can't imagine what you've been through. I just wanted to bring you something. It's not much, but you're not forgotten." I stared at the bag, bread, canned goods, fruit, and then at her. My throat tightened. I wanted to speak, but words stuck in my chest. Finally, I managed to whisper, "Thank you." She smiled and squeezed my arm. "You remind me of my mother. You deserve better than what you've been given." Her kindness broke me in the best way. I closed the door and sank into the chair, clutching the groceries as though they were treasure, because in that moment, they were. It wasn't just food, it was proof that there were still people in this world who cared. Proof that love could come from unexpected places. Slowly, I began to rebuild, not my house, but my spirit. Each small act of kindness was a brick, each gentle word a beam of strength. A hot meal at the shelter, a volunteer helping me search for a new apartment, a stranger who smiled at me in the hallway and said, "Hang in there. And little by little, I realized something that both hurt and healed me. Family isn't always who you raise. Sometimes family is the people who show up when the storm hits. It didn't erase the pain of my son's rejection. It didn't stitch the wound shut overnight, but it reminded me that love exists beyond bloodlines, and that maybe, just maybe, I was worthy of it. For the first time since that night, I felt a flicker of hope. Fragile, yes, but alive. And as I lay in my shelter bed, wrapped in a blanket that wasn't mine but offered freely, I whispered to myself, "You're going to make it, Katherine. You're going to make it." Weeks later, I was sitting in the small community garden near the shelter, watching the autumn leaves fall, when I saw him, my son, Mark. He walked slowly, shoulders hunched, hands stuffed deep in his pockets. His eyes found me, and even from a distance I could see the regret written all over his face. "Mom," he said, his voice breaking as he approached, "I'm sorry." I didn't move. I didn't rush into his arms the way I once might have. I stayed seated, my hands folded in my lap, watching him like a stranger I wasn't sure I knew anymore. He sat down beside me on the bench, but left a respectful space between us, as if he knew closeness wasn't his right to claim anymore. "I should have been there for you," he continued, words spilling out in a rush. "I let her decide for us. I didn't fight for you. I didn't stand up the way a son should, and I lost you in the process." The silence that followed was heavy, almost unbearable. He looked at me with pleading eyes, waiting for me to soften, to say something that would absolve him. But forgiveness isn't given lightly when your soul has been torn open. I took a breath and finally spoke. "I survived a tornado, Mark. I watched the roof over my head rip away. I watched decades of memories scatter into the wind. But what you did..." My voice trembled, then steadied. "That was the real destruction. Nature broke my house. You broke my heart." He flinched as though the words were a slap, but I pressed on because I needed him to hear it. "I'll heal," I whispered. "I'll build again, but things won't ever be the same." Tears welled in his eyes and began to stream down his face. He looked like the little boy I once held, the one who scraped his knees and cried for me to make it better. Only this time, I didn't reach out to wipe away his tears. Because sometimes, love means standing tall, even when the people you love most have let you down. "Mom, please," he choked. "Give me another chance. I'll talk to her. I'll make it right. I don't want to lose you." I turned to him fully, then my gaze steady. "Mark, you already lost me the night you closed the door in my face. Do you know what it feels like to have nowhere to go? To sleep in your car in the rain while your own son is just a wall away?" He buried his face in his hands, sobbing. "I was weak. I was stupid. I thought I was keeping peace in my marriage, but I destroyed the peace in my own heart." His words hung between us, raw and broken. For a moment, part of me wanted to reach for him, to pull him close and whisper that it was okay. That's what mothers do. We comfort, even when we're the ones bleeding. But another part of me, the part that had grown stronger through this storm, knew better. To comfort him now would be to erase the pain he caused me, and I couldn't do that. Not anymore. "Mark," I said quietly, "I love you. That will never change. But love isn't blind. Love remembers. Love also protects itself." He lifted his head, eyes searching mine desperately. "So, what now? Are you cutting me out of your life?" I shook my head slowly. "No, I'm not cutting you out, but I am stepping back. You'll have to earn your place again. Trust doesn't return just because you say you're sorry. It's built brick by brick, just like I'll be rebuilding my life." His mouth opened, but no words came. He just nodded, defeated. We sat there in silence, the wind rustling the trees above us, scattering golden leaves at our feet. It felt like the world itself was reminding me that seasons change, that endings are also beginnings. Finally, I stood. He stayed seated, watching me like a child afraid of being left behind. As I walked away, the wind brushed against my face, carrying not the weight of loss, but the strength of survival. I didn't hate my son, I never could, but I had learned something powerful. Sometimes love doesn't mean clinging. Sometimes love means letting go of expectations, of illusions, of the people who choose not to stand beside you when the storm hits. And in that letting go, I found freedom. This is my story. I'm Katherine. And if you've ever been turned away, betrayed, or left standing in the storm, know this: you are not alone. You will survive. You will rebuild. And one day, you will walk into the wind, not broken, but unshakable. Thank you for spending this time with me and walking through my story. Life can be cruel, storms can come without warning, and sometimes the people we love most can fail us. But remember, survival is not just about shelter, it's about heart. If my story touched you, please share it so others know they're not alone. And before you go, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from today? Your words help this community grow, and they mean more than you know. Until next time, stay strong, stay hopeful, and keep surviving.